Then there's 3D type. The whole idea that we return in some symbolic way to the old days of hot metal and wood type, showing that in a contemporary setting so that it has dimension. And this was a early poster around the time of the Bauhaus. This is from the Bauhaus book series, a reverse version of a printing stick, a linotype stick. Wood type. This is Fortunato de Pero's famous book pavilion in Treviso, Italy, made up of letters, three-dimensional type. And this is a more graphic, contemporary version used for a poster. And this is taking hot metal and putting it into a chase, and then photographing it so that it gives the impression of a three-dimensional object. Then there's cut type, trying to see how much one can read by obliterating aspects of the type. This was done by Tibor Kalman for the AIGA Humor Show. This was David Carson's first issue of Speak. And if you didn't know that it was Speak, it would take you a few minutes to figure it out. And this one, fortunately, the designer realized no one would be able to read it, so they put in the actual words in any case. And this one's fairly easy to figure out. And this is the front and the back of a business card. This is transparent type. This is done all the time. How many of you have done it? Let's see hands. Mirko, there's somebody there who's hesitant about admitting it. There's nothing to be ashamed of. We all use the same ideas. This is Paula Scher. This is a copy of Paula Scher. This is a copy of Paula Scher. This is Gail Anderson. And now we'll go to heroic type. This is my favorite. You know something is a magnificent, monumental piece of work when you see it carved out of stone and made into a monument like Ben-Hur. Or The Life of Brian. This kind of type can be used so easily when it's straightforward, very serious, or a parody like The Life of Brian. Or something kitschy like The War of the Worlds. Okay, building type. This is not using type to make a building, but type on buildings.
This is Rodochenko.
And this, I don't know how many of you have been to New York or have seen Paula Scher's public theater posters and billboards, but when Mirko found this, we were quite surprised. This was 1928, just a couple of years before Paula was born. And of course, now with new illumination technologies, type is pretty much on every building. Sometimes it is the building. And this is Paula Scher going back to the roots, and she's created a billboard out of the building, identifying what this art center in Newark, New Jersey has to offer its audience. And then inside the building, there's floor and ceiling type. This is Barbara Kruger, a very well-known installation of hers that covers an entire room with type and image. This is the waiting room at Grand Central Station in Manhattan, done by Stephen Doyle. And this is where, Mirko?
In England.
Tate Museum?
I'm not so sure, but Why Not Associates?
And here you have directions to the bathroom. I always look up when I have to go to the bathroom. Then there's icon type. This is one of my favorites. I just saw a version of it here walking over from the hotel. Taking one of the international sign symbols and throwing it in place of a letter. So it's a visual pun, but it's so punned out. I have maybe 100 of these things, but I won't bore you with all of them. Then there's constructivist type. Type based on Russian constructivism, but not. And in fact, this is by a British designer named David King, who has an entire room to himself at the Tate Museum for his Soviet poster collection. He's the largest collector of Soviet posters outside of Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union. And he introduced the forms of constructivism to graphic design back in the 70s, before anyone even remembered what existed. This is another one of his. And this is a fanzine based on the constructivist lettering. And this one is actually taken directly from an Lissitzky book. So some of these influences, as I said, come directly. Some of them are more oblique. And that's well-known Lissitzky cover for Objet, the architectural magazine, and this is Sound Projector's homage to Lissitzky. Then there's the graffiti mustache. I'm sure everybody here has drawn a mustache on a poster, right? You can admit it to me. I'm not going to tell you. Of course, there's the Duchamp mustache. And then this is an actual advertisement that used to be a Subway advertisement for a department store in New York that doesn't exist anymore. Orbach's, which was known as a women's store, introduced its men's shop. Clever. And this is Svetlana Stalin, George Lois cover for Esquire, with her dad's mustache. And here we have another. I always like blacking out the teeth in beautiful models. And then we have human maps. This is one of the earlier ones, showing Europe as a series of icons and stereotypes of European rulers and peoples. And this one is the introduction of the homunculi as a tool in describing the inner workings of the body. And this one, some of you may recognize it. It's the New York City penis map. Sometimes it's very hard to get from the bottom to the top, unless, of course, you're stimulated. And this one is called coitus interruptus. Seymour Quast. And keeping in the pornographic theme, blood. How many of you have used blood in your designs? Or how many of you have cut your finger and didn't mean to use blood in your designs? This is Art Chantry from Macbeth. Here's another Macbeth by somebody totally different.
Lippa Pierce.
Also using blood. But the type is actually quite good. Bloody good. Colors magazine. A protest poster against fur. Controlling arms. Okay, so now we're going to go to heroic figures. I always like to think of myself in this picture. This is a John Hartfield. This is a craft work, also combining Russian constructivism and Soviet socialist realism. And this, of course,